Good evening. Welcome to Christian Heritage Church. My name's Aaron Young, one of the pastors here at the church, and we are really excited for what God's going to do this weekend for revival. I hope you can join us Friday and Saturday at 7 o'clock, Sunday at 10:30 and 2. We're really looking forward to this weekend. We've been praying for it a lot. And I wonder tonight if you've been praying, even if you commented last night, comment down below and just say, I'm praying. It just gives us some encouragement, allows other people to see that we're not in this alone. We're all praying for victories this weekend. I wonder if we could take just a few moments and go to 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 3. If you don't have that with you, that's okay. We've got it here for you on the screen again. 1 Samuel chapter 30 and verse 3. And it says this: When David and his men came to the city, behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until there was no strength in them to weep. And now David's two wives had been taken captive. I want you to think just for a moment where David is. David and his military had been on patrol. They were going all over the countryside. It tells us earlier in the chapter that it took them 3 days journey to get from where they were to this homestead. And as they come in to home, they're probably tired. They're probably hungry. It's been a long journey. And as they come into their homeland, instead of finding a warm welcome from their family and friends, they find their villages burning. And all that they love and all the people they loved have been taken captive. The enemy took from David. And I wonder tonight for you, has the enemy taken something? Does the enemy have possession over something of yours? Maybe it's your joy. Maybe it's a loved one. Maybe it's your freedom. Maybe you feel trapped by worry or trapped by addiction. What has the enemy taken from you? I want you to see in these scriptures that with God, we can defeat the enemy. The enemy had taken everything from David. But look at the next scripture. Verse number 6, it keeps going. It tells us David was very distressed because the people spoke of stoning him. For all the people were embittered because they lost their sons and daughters. But David felt strengthened in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar, the priest, the son of Amalek, please bring me the ephod. So Abiathar brought the ephod to David. Everything against David, his people, his sorrow, his loss, it's all working against him. Yet David found strength in the Lord. And I want you to understand, he puts a title on this, his God. He had claimed it. And because of that, David found strength even in the most distressful situation. You too can find strength in God when we seek him. And the way that we seek him, well, David calls for the ephod. Now the ephod is something, it was a divine garment. It was meant for the high priest. It was like an apron that they would wear. And it was designed really to keep the blood and other things from the sacrifice off of their robes. But it was also used when we really, really wanted to meet with God. And so as David has the ephod, it tells us in the next scripture, David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this band of raiders? Will I overtake them? And the Lord answers, pursue, for you will surely overtake them, and you will surely rescue everyone. When we seek the Lord, when we focus on him, maybe it takes a change of clothes for you. Maybe it takes a separate room. Maybe it takes a divine place. But when we seek the Lord with intent, he answers. And he not only answers, but he gives us an understanding that where we need to be. David called out to the Lord and he said, should I go? No doubt he's got rage. No doubt he wants revenge. No doubt he wants to go and find his family and save them. But he decides, I need to talk to God about where we're going. So 1 Samuel 30, Verse number 11, he says, they're going and they're searching and they're looking for these raiders that came and took from them, the Amalekites. Okay? And as they're searching, verse 11 tells us they found an Egyptian in the field and they brought him to David and gave him bread and he ate. They provided him water to drink. They also gave him a slice of fig cake and 2 cakes of raisins, and he ate, and then his spirit revived. For he had not eaten bread or drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. I heard that and I thought, 3 days. 3 days. That sounds so significant. Why the overemphasis of the 3 days in this story? You remember at the beginning of the story, David traveled 3 days back to his homeland where the village was destroyed. And I thought to myself, in those 3 days, I'm sure he wasn't expecting it, and he might have thought in 3 days, a lot can change. I started thinking about 3 days, and I thought about it. You know, this is the same time that Paul was blinded. After he met Jesus on the road to Damascus, he was blinded for 3 days, and then he goes out and starts a powerful ministry. He starts serving Christ. The other story, I thought, Jonah stayed in the belly of the great fish for 3 days. And after those 3 days, he ran to Nineveh and gave a powerful speech to where the entire city repented. You can't mention 3 days without Jesus in the grave. Jesus lay in the grave for 3 days, and then he arose. I want to tell you this tonight. A lot can happen in 3 days. Then David, verse number 13, said to him, "To whom do you belong? Where are you from?" And he said, "I am a young man of Egypt, a servant of an Amalekite. And my master abandoned me when I became sick 3 days ago. We carried out an attack on the Negev and the Shethrites, and on that which belongs to Judah, and on the Negev of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire." Remember the Amalekites? This man serves the Amalekites, the ones that destroyed David's city of Ziklag with fire. In the next scriptures, David says to the Egyptian, no doubt anger, right? "You were with them when they burned my city?" But David asks him, "Can you take me to them? Can you show me where they are?" The servant says, "As long as you promise not to kill me, yeah, I'll show you where they are." The Egyptian servant takes him to where the group, the raiders, the Amalekites, the enemy, is hiding. And David goes down, and David defeats his enemy. And not only does he defeat his enemy, but he pulls out that which was stolen from him. And he gains much more. Everyone was saved. Every person was pulled out. And all of the belongings that were taken back. And they gained others from the ones that they defeated. And as they stood there in victory, I want to ask you this. What victory are you praying for? You know, we sit at this altar, and I hope and pray that these altars are filled with people this weekend. What victory are you praying for? What hurdle stands in front of you? What has the enemy taken? I want to tell you this. A lot can happen in 3 days.